I just finished this book. I am so angry. Oh my god. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. Today's book is an audiobook and it is Men I've Loved Before by Adele Parks. That is your front cover. Now, I need to keep an eye on the time because I've got an appointment in about half an hour, so let's set a quick alarm. Now, I have enjoyed Adele Parks thrillers, mysteries, and I thought, oh, a rom-com buyer, let's give it a go. Maybe there's a bit of a twist and stuff in there. It's in comedy, romantic and contemporary. Oh boy. Let's read this blurb. When you've loved before, how do you know who's the one? Nat and Neil are a match made in heaven. They share the same likes, dislikes and hopes for the future. One filled with successful careers, sex, travel and definitely no kids. At least that was the plan. Increasingly surrounded by friends with either children or trying for them, Neil begins to yearn for a baby himself. Nat, however, has no intentions of swapping her high-flying career for a life of endless self-sacrifice. As the cracks start to show, Nat wonders if Neil really is the man of her dreams. With neither prepared to say what they really want, Neil makes an unlikely new friend willing to lend an ear, whilst Nat, riddled with doubt about the man she married, looks for answers in her little black book of exes. This is 10 hours and 55 minutes on audiobook, and I did it on around 1.5 speed. This book made me frustrated. I identified quite a lot with Nat in her viewing of becoming a parent, and I was really frustrated by Neil. So as it started to wrap up and I could see where things were going, it's just like, oh no, oh no, no, no. I really did not like the ending of this book. I really felt for Nat because they've been together for about 8 years, married for a few years, and yeah, one night while they're getting down a day, Neil decides that he wants to have a child with Nat. Nat does not want to be a mother. She has her own feelings about it, where she doesn't imagine herself as a mother. And that is where I kind of identify with Nat, because I'm somebody whose biological clock has never started ticking. I've never wanted to be a parent. I love being an auntie. I love my niece to the moon and back. But the idea of being a parent myself is not something that I've ever thought was on the cards. And so when Nat and Neil have the conversation and now they're going, we're together, we had this conversation very early on, we agreed that I did not want to be a mother and you were okay with that, and now Neil has suddenly changed his mind. And that was the point, and I was just like, this is a couple doomed to fail, because they've obviously split, you know, the same page that they were on. Neil is now on a completely different page. This is not going to work. And as the book gets on, Neil does so many questionable things to the point where he does things that I know I would never forgive someone for doing the things that Neil was doing, and the things that he said about Nat becoming a mother. I was angry. I hated Neil all the way through it. He said some truly disgusting things about Nat becoming a mother in the idea, because like when he's trying to find out Nat's reasons for not wanting to be a mother, and I'm just like, first I'm just there thinking, she doesn't really need a reason if she doesn't want to be a mother. She doesn't want to be a mother. Her reasons behind that shouldn't really have to come into the equation. Admittedly, there is a communication fumble between these two, where you find out that throughout their relationship there are things that they are not talking about. But at the same time, Nat has every right to say, we were on the same page when we got together. You changing your mind means that this relationship isn't going to work. When that conversation happens, Nat stumbles upon her little black book of exes and she decides to call them with the question of, did I choose the right guy? And nothing happens with them. She talks to them, she has conversations with them, she finds out that one of her exes is now gay, another one was just an arse, and ultimately she knows that the relationship that she has with Neil has served a purpose. And it's just like, I'm the kind of person who thinks there are people for certain times in your lives, and maybe her time with Neil has just come to an end. They're on separate pages and this is the time when they need to move on from each other. I should have guessed where this was going because it's so advertised as a rom-com, but when you hear the things that Neil says when you see the things that he's done, and I'm just like, no. No matter what he says, nothing can forgive what he does in this book. He finds solace at a strip club, which Nat isn't actually all that fussed about at first. If he's going to go to a strip club with a couple of friends, at least he's coming home to me. That's why Nat's view is on that. But what she doesn't know is that he's continuing to go back to the strip club to talk to one specific dancer. That's a really hard word to say. Specific. So you're aware that Neil continues to go back to see this stripper, mainly just to talk to her, but you see what happens in that friendship and the way he talks to this stripper about Nat. He does say some really stupid things, and actually one thing that really pissed me off at the beginning when they're having that conversation, he's like, well, why don't you want to be a mother? Like, maybe this is a conversation that we can have, which really, they should have had that conversation very, very early on, because Nat is keeping something from Neil, which is quite big, which does truly affect her decision to become a parent. But when she's saying, I just don't want to be a mother, do you know what Neil says? He says, if this is about gaining weight. Like, really? He would have been out the second he'd said that, if that was me. Like, do you know what the body goes through to have a baby? It's not just about gaining weight. You've got the morning sickness, which is not just morning sickness, it's throughout the day sickness. Both my mum and my sister had very severe morning sickness. So there's that. Like, it's not just morning sickness. The body is creating a human. Like, your whole body goes out of alignment, and you're doing it for essentially 10 months. You hear, oh, it's a 9-month pregnancy. No, actually, when you actually add it all up, it's closer to 10 months. And some people go over, some people go under. But either way, it's a lot for your body to go through. So when Neil said, oh, is it just about gaining weight? I was just there thinking, oh my God, I would have kicked him in the balls right there and then. Oh, the conversations that he has with his friend Carl about it. I'm just like, and the things that he does, because he so desperately wants to become a parent, and I'm just there thinking, you need to wake up and find somebody who actually does want a child, because this ain't gonna happen. Which is why the ending was so frustrating for me. Obviously, I am very pro-choice. I'm not about, I don't know what I'd actually do in that position if I did get pregnant, but I ultimately believe that every woman has a right to choose if she wants to put her body, and I just believe that a woman has a right to choose if she wants to start a family or not. So if somebody finds themselves pregnant, they have a right to choose if they want to bring that life into the world. That is where I am. Ultimately, I wanted Nat to have the choice, and she makes a choice, but when she finds out about the things that Neil has done, I wanted to throw things. I wanted to break things. Because ultimately, I don't imagine this couple doing well after the end of the events of this book. I enjoyed the story. I don't like how it ended. Because ultimately, this couple are not a match made in heaven. I could never forgive Neil for the things that he admits to doing. And yes, Nat makes some interesting decisions. But Nat doesn't do anything as bad as what Neil does. Like, no, I would never forgive Neil. And I don't understand how Nat did. And even with where it goes, I don't even... Because I know what happens in the end. And obviously I don't want to spoil it too much. But I did not want Nat to have Neil in her life anymore. Even when he confesses to the things that he's done. Because it's a very big secret that Neil keeps. And yeah, no. Even when Nat thinks that she has done something, it turns out she actually hasn't. She just got very drunk one night, but there's something that she thinks happens that doesn't actually happen. And yeah, no. I'll stick to Adele Parks' thrillers, because she's very good at the twisty-turny stuff and changing everything on you like at the last page or so, and I really enjoyed that. But for this, as a rom-com, this couple is not a match made in heaven, and I would have kicked Neil out the second he asked me if I didn't want to become pregnant because it involved gaining weight. His opinions on having a baby with Nat, because he's there going like, oh, why do women hold all the power? And I'm just like, because they're the ones that have to be pregnant for almost 10 months and give birth to that child. That is why. Your contribution is just a little swimmer, but she's the one that has to carry it. As someone who is pro-choice, I was completely up for Nat doing what she needed to do, but if I was in Nat's position at the end of the book, I would not have forgiven Neil. If you have to be in my life, that's fine, but we are not staying married. We are breaking up. I don't understand how anybody could forgive Neil for the things he does and the things he says. Sorry. Yeah, so I got very invested in this book. I really identified with Nat. I thought she was a very interesting character to latch onto, but whenever I heard from Neil's point of view, I wanted to punch him, and at the end I felt Nat had every right to castrate him. Men I've Loved Before by Adele Parks. Yeah, this had made me angry. The end of this book made me angry. That's all I can say. I really enjoyed Just My Luck. I really enjoyed both of you. I thought both of those were really, really interesting thrillers with good twists. This one, no. Enjoyed the story, hated Neil, and yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm wrapping this up 5 minutes early, which is interesting. But yeah, that is how I felt. If there is any woman out there who feel like they could forgive Neil for what he said and did, you have to let me know who you are and why you would do it, because I certainly would not forgive Neil, and I really hated that Nat forgave him. Thanks for watching me get really frustrated by this book. I literally finished it 2 seconds before I started filming this. Adele Parks, I love your thrillers. This rom-com, this ending was not what I wanted at all. It was kind of like, there's a Colleen Hoover book, Ugly Love, which really frustrated me, because I was just there thinking, this couple is not the be-all and end-all. This is a couple that needs to break up, and that is what I felt about these two. Nat and Neil needed to break up. Neil needed to find somebody who actually wanted a baby with him, and Nat needed to get into therapy to deal with her emotions, how she felt about being a mother and things. And to be honest, that conversation should have had very early on in their relationship, because the fact is Nat is keeping a very big secret from Neil for the whole relationship. But yeah, ultimately I felt like these two were the match made in heaven that is painted at the beginning of the book. And as soon as he said he wanted a baby and Nat said I don't, they should have just sat down and had a really good chat and realised that they were on 2 different paths. That's all I can say.
Hi everyone. Editing Deb's just popping in just to say that I'm not saying this was a bad book. I'm just saying I didn't like where it went. There's nothing wrong with you if you enjoyed the book. It's just that it didn't go where I wanted it to, and I didn't agree with the message that it sent, but it doesn't mean other people won't enjoy it. This was just my personal experience with it. I got heavily invested in the story and Nat as a character. And the fact that I wanted to punch Neil tells you it was a rounded character which, to me, was portrayed as a baddie rather than a goodie. So I'm not knocking the author and saying that it's a bad book. I just didn't like where it went.
So thanks for watching me get frustrated. If you do like my videos, please subscribe. It is nice to see the numbers going up and us creating a little community over here. But yeah, so thank you. I will see you next time. And yeah, stay safe. I love you all. Goodbye.